What if the thing we've been told is saving us is actually what's pulling us further away from ourselves? We live in the most advanced society in human history. At least that's the story we've been sold. We're surrounded by convenience, speed, and access. Information at our fingertips. Food delivered in minutes. Entire lives run from the palm of your hand. This, supposedly, is the dream we've all been waiting for. But beneath the surface of this high-tech, high-functioning world, there's a quiet ache, a disconnection, a growing feeling of emptiness that no one can quite explain, but almost everyone can feel. It doesn't make sense, does it? We've solved problems that plagued generations before us. We've eliminated diseases, increased life expectancy, invented tools and platforms that connect us across oceans. But despite all of this, people feel lonelier, more anxious, more exhausted, more directionless than ever before. Why? Because the promise of progress was built on a lie, that more comfort would bring more happiness, that faster would mean freer, that more connection would make us feel less alone. But here's what actually happened. Progress made us efficient, but not fulfilled. It gave us comfort, but stripped away meaning. It connected us superficially while isolating us deeply. And the most dangerous part? We didn't notice it happening. From the moment we're born, we're trained to fit into a system, not to question it, not to see outside of it. We're told that life moves in a straight line. School, job, house, retirement. That success is defined by what you own, how busy you are, and how well you perform. But who benefits from this script? Because it certainly isn't you. What's sold to us as personal development is often just social conditioning. We're shaped into workers, consumers, responders. We optimize, we hustle, we produce. But we rarely pause to ask, why am I doing all this? Who told me this is what a good life looks like? We've turned life into an endless race with no finish line. One where stillness feels like failure. One where your value is measured in likes, metrics, productivity, and performance. You feel behind if you're not always doing. You feel guilty for resting. You scroll through highlight reels of other people's lives and wonder why yours doesn't feel as shiny. You lie awake at night thinking about to-do lists that never end. And all the while you carry this quiet suspicion. This can't be it. This can't be all there is. You're right. But here's the genius of modern life's illusion. It convinces you the problem is you. That if you're tired, you just need better habits. If you're sad, download another app. If you're anxious, maybe try another productivity hack. But what if the problem isn't your mindset? What if it's the model? What if the very system that taught you to chase happiness through consumption, performance, and busyness was never designed to make you happy in the first place? Modernity isn't evil, but it's blind. It's built to prioritize efficiency over emotion, performance over purpose, growth over grace. It's built to keep the machine running, not to help the human thrive. And unless you step back, unless you question the whole structure, you'll keep blaming yourself for the emptiness it produces. So let's name the truth. You're not lazy. You're tired of living a life that never asked who you are beneath the resume. You're not broken. You're waking up. You're starting to see the cracks in the foundation. The truth is, you were never meant to be a cog in someone else's system. You were meant to feel, to create, to connect, to rest, to live in rhythm with something more honest than productivity stats and screen time reports. This isn't a rejection of technology or advancement. It's a reminder that progress without reflection is just acceleration. Faster movement in a direction that might be leading you away from what really matters. So here's the invitation. Slow down, ask harder questions, step off the treadmill long enough to look around, because clarity begins not with more information, but with less distraction. And maybe, just maybe, the life you're seeking isn't ahead of you in some optimized future. Maybe it's been waiting in the stillness all along. Have you noticed it too? That subtle pressure in your chest when you're not doing something useful? That guilt that creeps in when you rest, as if you're somehow falling behind? Welcome to the productivity trap, one of the most celebrated, normalized, and dangerous lies of modern life. We were taught that being busy is noble, that hustle is honorable, that filling every minute of your day with output makes you valuable. But the truth, Busyness is not a badge of honor. It's often a symptom of disconnection. Think about it. How often do you measure your day based on how much you accomplished versus how deeply you lived? How often do you rest without secretly keeping a mental list of all the things you should be doing? Modern culture has quietly made exhaustion the new currency of worth. The more tired you are, the more valuable you must be. The more burned out, the more committed. The more stressed, the more successful. But let's be clear, just because you're moving doesn't mean you're going somewhere that matters. We have romanticized productivity to the point where being has lost its value unless it's accompanied by doing. And that's where the sickness begins. Because when your entire identity is tied to how productive you are, you'll never feel like enough. No matter how much you accomplish, there's always more. More goals, more hustle, more to prove. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to measure your worth by your output. You're no longer a person, you're a performer, a machine, optimized for speed, output, and results. But machines don't feel, machines don't question, machines don't dream. And you were never built to be a machine. You were made to rest, to reflect, to feel deeply, to move through life with presence. Not just pressure, but modern life doesn't make space for that. It turns every moment into a metric. Even leisure has been rebranded. Rest isn't really rest anymore. It's recovery so you can get back to being productive tomorrow. Even hobbies get packaged into side hustles. Meditation becomes a way to optimize your mental performance. Reading gets measured in how many books you finish, not how deeply you're moved by them. It's performance over presence, efficiency over emotion, speed over soul, and the result? We're doing more than ever and feeling less alive than ever. Because here's what productivity culture won't tell you. Rest is not weakness. Slowness is not laziness. And your worth is not earned by exhaustion. In fact, the deepest breakthroughs in creativity and clarity, in healing, come not from grinding harder, but from slowing down long enough to feel again. But we don't give ourselves that space because the system wasn't built for it. The system needs you busy. It needs you tired. It needs you insecure, Russ, so you'll keep working harder, buying more, proving your value through endless achievement. That's why you feel so guilty when you pause, because you've been conditioned to believe that your only value is what you produce. But here's the truth. You are not your inbox. You are not your calendar. You are not your productivity app or your performance review. You are a living, breathing, feeling human being, and you were never meant to live your life like a spreadsheet. You don't need to earn rest. You deserve it because you're human. You don't need to hustle for your worth. You already have it. You don't need to do more to become more. You just need to remember who you are underneath the noise. So the next time that voice in your head says, you're falling behind, ask yourself, behind what? Who set the pace? Who defined the finish line? And more importantly, do you even want to be in that race? Because the most radical thing you can do in a world that equates stillness with failure is to slow down on purpose, to reclaim your time, your energy, your presence, to decide that you don't want to spend your one precious life being endlessly productive, but never truly alive. Remember when we were told technology would bring us closer, that social media would make us feel more connected, that having a phone in your pocket meant you'd never really feel alone? That's what we were promised. But let me ask you something honestly. Have you ever felt more surrounded, yet more unseen? That's the paradox we're living in. We've never had more ways to talk, and yet we've never felt so unheard. Modern connection is instant, constant, and often incredibly shallow. We've traded eye contact for screen time, deep conversation for double taps, real presence for carefully curated captions. And the result? A kind of quiet loneliness that doesn't always scream, but slowly eats away at our sense of belonging. It's the loneliness of scrolling through endless pictures of other people's lives while feeling further from your own. The kind where you're surrounded by notifications but starved for real attention. The kind that whispers, I don't know who really knows me anymore, even in a crowded room. That loneliness is not your fault. It's not a flaw in you. It's a symptom of a system that was never built for real intimacy. See, what social media gives us is connection theater. the appearance of closeness without the depth. It's a highlight reel of carefully managed moments, and it tricks us into comparing our behind-the-scenes mess with everyone else's polished preview. We weren't meant to live this way. Our brains weren't built to process the emotions of 100 people at once. Our hearts weren't designed to be constantly exposed, judged, and filtered. Our nervous systems can't thrive in a world where silence feels threatening and every quiet moment gets filled with noise. But here we are, connected 24/7 and lonelier than ever. Even our relationships have changed. We don't just talk anymore. We type. We don't call. We text. We don't meet up. We react. And slowly, that erosion of depth starts to show. Conversations feel shorter. Trust takes longer. And real vulnerability, the kind that builds bonds, gets drowned out by the pressure to appear okay. But here's what we need to remember. Real connection requires real presence. Not presence on a timeline. Not presence in a chat bubble. Actual presence. The kind that doesn't need filters, doesn't perform, doesn't compete. Connection happens when we feel seen, when we feel safe enough to be real. And in a world built on speed and performance, safety takes time. But the system doesn't want you to take time. It wants you distracted. Because distracted people buy more. Distracted people stay in loops. Distracted people don't ask, why do I feel so alone when I'm never really alone? And so we keep refreshing the feed. We keep chasing the next dopamine hit. We keep convincing ourselves that digital intimacy is enough, until it isn't, until it's 2 a.m. and your heart feels heavy and your phone is full of people, but you still feel like you have no one to call. That's the cost of our connection. But it doesn't have to be the end of the story, because the moment you stop performing closeness and start seeking depth, something shifts. You stop texting LOL when you're hurting. You stop answering I'm fine just because it's easy. You stop mistaking likes for love. You begin looking people in the eye again. You start remembering that intimacy isn't built through exposure. It's built through honesty. And that means being willing to slow down, to show up differently, to create space for quiet conversations that don't need to be recorded, liked, or validated by anyone else. Because what your soul is really craving isn't more followers, it's more truth. It's the safety of being fully seen and still fully accepted. That's what connection was always meant to be. And no amount of algorithmic engineering can replace it. So start there. With one honest moment, one real conversation, one decision to show up, not as the version of yourself that looks best in pixels, but the one who's been longing to be held, heard, and healed. Because the antidote to digital loneliness isn't logging off. It's reaching out, on purpose and without the mask. We live in a world that prides itself on freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of movement, freedom to choose. But how free do you really feel? Sure, we have choices, more than ever before. You can scroll through hundreds of streaming options, thousands of products, infinite opinions. You can change your career path with a click, reinvent your online identity overnight, book a plane ticket across the world before dinner. But if choice was freedom, why does it so often feel like pressure? Why does having more to choose from sometimes make us feel less certain about who we are? This is the quiet paradox of modern life. What looks like freedom on the outside often feels like overwhelm on the inside. We weren't made for infinite options. The human brain evolved to make choices in small groups, in stable environments, with clarity and constraint. But now we're expected to make 100 decisions before breakfast, from what to wear, to what to post, to what version of ourselves to present to the world. And instead of feeling empowered, we feel scattered, pulled in 1,000 directions, tired from decisions that don't even matter, drowning in a sea of options without a compass to tell us which way is home. But here's what no one tells you. Freedom without purpose is just noise. The modern version of freedom often isn't rooted in self-trust. It's rooted in self-doubt. Every new opportunity becomes another reason to second-guess yourself. Every open door becomes another window for comparison. And every click, every scroll, every swipe fragments your attention just a little bit more. So much of what we call freedom today is actually curated for us. Our feeds, our ads, even our dreams, shaped by algorithms, targeted marketing, social expectation. You're free to choose from the menu, but you didn't write the menu. And that's the subtle form of control modern society has mastered. It doesn't force you, it nudges you. It rewards conformity with likes, it rewards hustle with praise. It tells you what to want by showing you what everyone else is doing. You don't even realize you're being guided because the walls aren't visible. They're internal. And the cage you're stuck in, you helped build it. Through the decisions you didn't question, through the metrics you let define you, through the goals you never asked if you truly wanted. So here's the hard truth. Most of us aren't free. We're just highly conditioned. Conditioned to want what we're told we should want, to work how we're told we should work, to measure ourselves by standards we didn't choose. And the moment you begin to question that, really question it, is the moment something inside you begins to wake up. Because freedom isn't just about having options, it's about knowing what you want in the first place. It's about subtracting the noise so you can finally hear your own voice again. Real freedom begins the moment you stop asking, "What should I be doing?" and start asking, "What actually feels true for me?" That kind of freedom is scary because it doesn't come with a step-by-step guide. It comes with responsibility, the responsibility to define your own values, your own rhythm, your own version of success. But it's also where the real power is. The power to say no when the world expects yes. The power to rest when the system demands more. The power to walk away from a version of yourself that was built to be accepted, but not to be alive. Freedom isn't found in infinite choices. It's found in intentional ones. So here's the invitation. Start choosing on purpose, not from fear, not from comparison, not because it's what everyone else is doing, but because it feels aligned with who you actually are beneath all the layers. Because the most radical freedom in the modern world is remembering you always had a choice, especially about who you're becoming. Have you ever had that strange feeling when everything in your life looks fine from the outside, but deep down, something still feels off? Like there's a quiet emptiness following you, even on your best days? You go through the motions. You show up, do the work, tick the boxes, maybe even accomplish what you set out to do, but somehow it still doesn't land the way you thought it would. That feeling isn't an accident. It's not a personal flaw. It's the emotional consequence of a system that taught us how to perform, but never how to be real. A world that gave us goals but not meaning. A culture that encouraged us to look outward for purpose, but never inward for peace. We were raised on a script, not one we chose, one we inherited. Do well in school, get the job, stay busy, climb the ladder, keep moving, be productive. Performance, achieve, upgrade, repeat. And maybe, just maybe, if you keep at it long enough, happiness will catch up to you. But what if it doesn't? What if the reason we feel so restless, even when life looks good, is because that script never asked who we truly are? It never made space for stillness or for depth. It never considered that maybe success without self-awareness isn't success at all. It's just noise. So we keep chasing things that don't nourish us. We keep moving, faster and faster, hoping speed will distract us from the ache inside. And when the emptiness returns, we blame ourselves. We think we just need to work harder, sleep less, meditate more, hustle smarter. But deep down we know this isn't sustainable. That's where burnout starts. And not just physical exhaustion, emotional, existential burnout. The kind of tired that sleep won't fix. The kind that comes from years of ignoring your intuition just to keep up. The kind that happens when you've been performing for so long, you don't even know what authenticity feels like anymore. We keep showing up in the world wearing masks, playing roles we never consciously chose. The responsible one, the achiever, the perfectionist, the strong one, the one who never asked for help. These identities get rewarded. They make us feel safe, validated, needed. But they also cost us something we don't even realize we're giving away: our truth. And as we lose touch with our truth, we start to grasp for substitutes. We scroll endlessly. We shop impulsively. We binge content that numbs instead of nourishes. Modern life has quietly taught us that consumption is the cure for emptiness, that if we feel low, we just need to buy something new, upgrade our space, chase another goal, sign up for another course, buy the next thing that promises transformation. But nothing external can ever replace what we've been conditioned to ignore, the voice within, the voice that keeps asking, sometimes gently, sometimes through breakdowns, is this it? Is this who I really am? It's so subtle, most people miss it, or drown it out with noise. But it's always there underneath the pressure to do more, be more, earn more. It's the part of you that remembers what it felt like to be fully alive. Before the performance, before the hustle, before you started measuring your value by how much you could produce or how many people approved. And the longer you go without listening to that voice, the heavier everything starts to feel. Not in dramatic ways, just slowly. You feel it in the way you sigh when no one's around, in the tension in your shoulders that never really goes away, in the way you scroll through your own life and wonder why nothing really feels real anymore.